Welcome to Connecting the Dots, a non-traditional legal program with your host and trusted advisor, Liz Myska, your guide through the web of life's dilemmas.
Welcome to another edition of Connecting the Dots. I'm your host, Liz Myska, and today I have the distinct privilege of welcoming Dr. Irina Radu from UMass, a cardiologist. My heart.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the invitation. It is my pleasure to come here.
I want you to tell my audience how we met. In your own words, please.
Yeah. We met in January 3rd in St. Vincent. I was volunteering for Walk with a Dog. This is one of my privileged places where I volunteer. I enjoy telling patients, making them aware about heart diseases and health awareness. And Walk with a Dog is a program that was provided by the AARP, which everybody knows. We did a talk, 15 minutes, on January 3rd this year, and Liz was there, and I met her, and she invited me to do the walk blindfolded, so I did, and I enjoyed it very much. And then she invited me to other events, and I come to her Walk Fit event as well. So we connected, and since then, we met each other many times, me volunteering and her providing this amazing event.
Well, thank you. We connected. We're like parts of the heart, right? That we beat together.
Yeah.
And the beat goes on with more things that we have planned. I just want to reference back to Walk with a Dog, because I believe Walk with a Dog, and audience, we're not saying walk with a dog, we're saying walk with a doc, D-O-C. I believe it was started by a cardiologist, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe for patients who were suffering from heart-related issues, which could be obesity or stroke, or again, and since you're a cardiologist, I'm curious, why is walking so good for you?
Yeah, walking is good to keep your heart healthy, and actually one of the physicians that works at UMass, Dr. Michael Hirsch, I reached out to him because now I'm working in research and I miss the interaction with the people and the patients. So I go there to speak with people, to make them aware about how to be more healthy, and how to be more healthy. Walking is one of the things that makes you prolong your life, and being more active, and eating well, and actually even volunteering and
Right.
People interactions keeps you a healthy heart. And in February, we actually celebrated the Heart Month, and I was very pleased to do a lot of events, including Walk with a Dog. There was a Heart and Stroke Ball. I did volunteer for the Walk Fit, and I also did volunteering for UMass, where I had the privilege of being invited to help the people learn CPR,
Yes.
which is a very important skill. And since then, I was invited to do it many times, and I'm happy to do that.
Well, we're laughing because at our last Walk Fit, which was March 23rd, you actually on the 16th, you also brought I guess her name is Recessi Annie, the figure with the head and the torso.
Yeah.
And several of our VIPs are visually impaired people. And myself included, we learned how to do CPR, which, when you think about it, we all should know that, regardless of how old we are, regardless of who we are, because and I'm going to let you explain, when somebody collapses, you don't want to be saying, oh, let me go get somebody, because it may be too late.
Yeah.
You do such a beautiful job of explaining that. So can you talk about how long before bad things happen if your heart isn't resuscitated?
Let me give you the data, actually. So in Massachusetts, 161 patients die of cardiac arrest, which is how everybody dies. But from this amount of people, there are some that you can save, and we can save them. Everybody can save them. We can learn CPR actually from starting from 10 years old, which is amazing because you can save a life. And how important is this? Because even if you're visually impaired,
right,
sometimes you're the only hope of that patient, that person that is near you, and you need to act. Even if you have some limitations of being visually impaired, you have the sense of touch. You know your person near you, and you can act. So these things, and I'm very grateful that you invited me and you opened my eyes about a new population for learning CPR. You need to know CPR as well, because you might be the only hope of the person near you, and you need that sighted guide to help you in your life. So to me, it's very important. And where it came to teach people CPR is from personal bad experience. My godfather died of cardiac arrest 10 years ago, actually, and he was a physician as well. He after being on call, he was in a public place. He collapsed at 9 a.m. in the morning, and they were able to resuscitate him, but it was too late. So the reason it's so important is because every minute when you're in cardiac arrest, your chances of survival are limited by 10%. They decrease by 10%. So if 5 minutes goes by and you don't do anything, that person has just 50% chances of survival. And because the brain cells starts to die 3 to 4 minutes, that person, even though you might help them survive, that person might not be the same. So that it's so important for everybody to know. I know it's hard. Sometimes I say it's like a workout to do CPR, to learn CPR, but you need to put it this way, like you might be the only chance for that person that you love. Why not know to do it the right way? And I will do whatever is in my power when I get invited, and even if I'm not invited, I will create myself opportunities, because one of the things I love is to teach. So I believe is a gift to teach people how to learn in this situation CPR. So I'm going to continue to do that, and I have the support of UMass ISILS with Dr. Melissa Fisher and Jorge, who's giving me the mannequin to be able for me to
bring it with.
Yeah, to do a hands-on experience, because CPR, it's not only like watching a video, you need to practice, which is the most important part.
Well, I think that just to go back to how we met, that's the idea behind WalkFit, that you can't just watch visually impaired people and say, oh, I know all about them. Whether you're a doctor, a medical doctor, an eye doctor, a technologist, and say, oh, I can help them because I observe that they do this, that, and the other thing. And I think by you including us bringing the mannequin. Again, I had trepidation. I had reservations about, I'm not going to be able to do this. And then, to your point, you were teaching me, and I was staying alive. So, actually, fingers up, right? Press down, okay. Sorry, there was a visual there.
You are a good student.
But I think that's what's appealing to me about interlocking with healthcare, because as a patient, I often feel as though I'm at a disadvantage because you know it all, but you don't know me. And there's that, almost like that lack of dialogue in medicine that you as a physician, I'm not saying you, Irina, but you as a physician look and you're like, oh, okay, you're showing signs of this, showing signs of that, okay, it must be this. And because of time constraints and insurance, off I go. Or I may say, you're not gonna be able to help me, so I'm not even gonna go. So avoidance, I think, is a very big issue. And I think it's a huge issue with again, my population, visually impaired people, because we're like, you're not gonna be able to help us. And we're not gonna let you help us because we're afraid. So I think, again, teaching, bringing awareness in whatever we do, whatever our field, is very, very, very important. But I'm curious about you and cardiology. I mean, you've shared with us, your story about your godfather. But what made you, from the time you were a tiny person, interested in the heart?
My mother is a nurse, so I was exposed from early age to going to the hospital, and my parents gave me like a kit, a doctor's kit, and
wow.
I used to wear that
The stethoscope?
tiny stethoscope.
That little, it was like a little black bag?
Yeah, and then I was a winner. I always wanted to be a doctor, and then my path was to learn chemistry and biology, and I was a winner of the National Chemistry Olympiad. So I was one of the top students of my country. And cardiology I have chosen because I really like interacting with people.
Right.
Some specialties in medicine are more individual. Let's say you stay in the lab or things like this. But being a cardiologist, you need to make that connection to the patient.
Right.
And you need to explain to the patient why you need to do this procedure, why you need to take this medication. And some patients are connected with you because they have chronic diseases. So they are connected with you, they are life connected with you. So this is a great responsibility, and to me it gives me a great pleasure to explain to the patient why they need to do this medication, why they need to do this procedure. And having that connection with them makes them more accountable for their life. And it's one of my greatest joy to see a patient that, was in a very bad shape, right, that you help them, like being a husband, being a
right.
father,
a scout leader, or right.
Continuing their life and understanding why they need to do the things that we recommend. And it's a two-way street. Like, I need to understand why you don't think you need. What are your expectations to your lives? Why you think maybe you are reluctant to take a medication, but why do you feel that? And you need to tell me, and I can explain to you why you're taking this medication and how the medicine works, what are the side effects, and things like this. So because of that, and now I'm doing more research. Because of that, I try to expose myself the most that I can to people, because I know how important it is as a physician to have that connection to your patients.
Right. You're making me think that I come from a family that my mother didn't want to know about her health, and she did not take care of her body. My father, on the other hand, did, and my father had a heart murmur And my father was, when World War II broke out, or at least when the United States entered the war, my father was 22, and he was here in Worcester, and he went down to volunteer for the Army, and they wouldn't take him because he had a heart murmur. But the Marines took him, so he was a Marine officer in World War II and in Korea. When I had my first eye surgery, which was cataract surgery, it turned out that I had something called a winky block, and so I guess my heart skips beats. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of that term, but I was assured nothing to worry about. So I just thought I'm just going to add that in there because I don't know if there's a connection with the heart murmur or.
Yeah, it might be, but the most important thing is explaining to the patient why they have the symptoms. Like, if you have a heart murmur, what does it mean to you?
Right.
Like, what does it mean to you, and what are your options? What do you need to know if you decide to do an investigation or to do a procedure? What happens if you don't do it?
Right.
And eventually it will be your choice what to do. But I'd like to say that you have done that choice informed, and I've done the best that I can to explain to you why you need to do this and what are your options. And I think that's one of the best things in medicine. Like, you got to have the connection with the patient, and they trust you, which is a big responsibility.
Well, exactly. And again, in all human relationships, in my profession as well, if as a lawyer, if there's not that trust, you're sunk. You're sunk, because you can dispense, and you as a physician dispense information, dispense medication, I dispense advice. But if I'm out for my own ends, and I'm not involving my client, or you're not involving your patient, it's a bad result. It's a bad result. So again, you were just making me think about heart and how little I know about heart health, but I'm also very much aware of, and you mentioned at the very beginning about physical, call it fitness, exercise, being positive, eating healthy, again, informing yourself, and all of those things, because I want to pick up on that word choice. We as human beings have choices. We don't think we do, but we do. We choose, to indulge in our bad habits or perpetuate our bad habits instead of change. And I'm wondering, as a physician, is that frustrating when patients say, "Well, you don't understand. I can't do this because da 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 da."
No, it's human nature.
Right.
But to me, what's the most important is explaining to them why. For example, I did walk with a dog event a few months ago, and I explained to the patient how to read the label. So they learn about the portions, about salt consumption, and they learn about, because some preservatives, for example, they have like the products have a long shelf life, so they use preservatives, which most of them are salts. So I explained to them how to read the label, and they had the choice to. I gave them a homework, and I said to them, okay, please read your label and see how much salt are you consuming.
Right.
And after this talk, and I gave them some materials to read at home as well, learn in 1 month how much salt you are reducing. And I told them, like, we eat too much salt, and especially in a food that is processed
right.
and fast food and things like this, But if we cook our own meals, and it doesn't have to be something very complicated, we are limiting the salt consumption. And salt consumption is linked to many diseases. One of them is hypertension. And from hypertension, you get heart failure. If you get heart failure, you can get congestive heart failure and stroke and so many bad things that just come from such a small thing like reducing your salt consumption. And the taste of salt is something, it's something you get used to it. Right. So for example, if you start adding more and more salt, you get used to that high level of salt.
Yeah, that flavor.
And you miss that when you get food that has a limited amount of salt, then you feel that. So you need to be aware that there are some foods that you can choose that have a low salt. So when you go to the supermarket and let's say you have to eat something that, I don't know, it's has a long shelf life. So
potato chips.
Potato chips, maybe you can read the label and choose if you really need to use potato chips, and you can once in a while.
Once in a while, day. Right?
You can choose the ones that have maybe a limited amount of salt, which will help you a little bit.
Well, I think again that goes back to choice, but it's also not being passive as well. In other words, it's just saying, well, somebody else shops for me, or my life is too hectic, so I just order things and then they're delivered. And, I'm just consuming the food. I'm not thinking about what I'm putting in my body. So I think that's where your teaching, your education, you're slowing things down for people to say, let's think about this. I'm not going to be there on your, sitting on your shoulder, saying, do you really want to eat that? Yes, I know you want to eat it, because it's quick and then it's done, like filling up the gas tank. But by the same token, how much longer is it going to take to make a salad than to eat a bag of potato chips? And that's better for you than the bag of potato chips. Yeah,
but some people are not aware about that. If I'm consuming potato chips, this will, for example, if I'm hypertensive, this will raise my systolic blood pressure. So, I might get into the need of adding new medication and things like this. So there are actually some dietary recommendation for patients that have hypertensive disease, like simply reducing the amount of salt is one of the recommendation. In some patients, there's nothing you can do. You need to add medication because they're in the level that they need, and the risk of having organ injury is very high, or they already have it. But when you are doing preventive medicine, you need to be aware that eating a high amount of salt every day might get you hypertensive earlier than if you didn't. Mm-hmm. So that's the choices you need to make. We're not absorbed. Things are, you have the choice, but it is what it is.
Right. I just want to change the subject for a second to, I know you're going to a conference. I know you do research. Is the conference that you're going to, I believe you mentioned in Atlanta, is that about your research?
Yes. We are presenting the results of a clinical trial we did. Me and my professor, Dr. Jeffrey Reid, who is also my mentor, we started this project in 2019, and we are presenting the results. It's a clinical trial with a new drug that will hope that we have some positive results that shows that using this drug improves the endothelial function, which is like the holy grail of many diseases.
What was the function? What's it called?
Endothelial function is the inner layer of the vessels.
Okay.
And
Right.
because we have vessels everywhere in our bodies, it's related with many diseases, and we have hopes that maybe the drug will improve that in the future.
Wow.
Yeah.
So with the clinical trial, how does that work? I'm not familiar.
We enroll some patients that have, we call it non-platelet thromboxane generation, which is a new marker for cardiovascular diseases, morbidity, mortality, cancer. It's like the cholesterol. We get the patient into taking the drug, which is the one that we have high hopes, and also the placebo for 1 month, and we do some measurements to see if their endothelial function has improved.
Wow. And this is what you're going to be presenting?
Yes.
Your results at the conference?
Yes.
Awesome. We're going to have you come back and talk about, the receptivity of the medical community to this clinical trial. Congratulations! That sounds
thank you.
Very important. Not only for you, but for those patients as well. As usual, we are running out of time, so I just want to thank you for becoming part of our community. Not only the Connecting the Dots community, but the WalkFit community and the Worcester community, because in the short amount of time that you and I have been collaborating and knowing one another, we literally our relationship has grown by leaps and bounds, and it makes my little heart pitter patter. So I just want to thank you for being open to all kinds of possibilities, because in you saying the things that you have said today, you look for opportunities to assist people and help people, and that's an awesome quality for any human being to have. So thank you for sharing your expertise and your love of what you do and who you are with us. So.
Thank you so much. It is my honor to help people, and I do it with great pleasure, and
Well, that's evident. So thank you.
Thank you.
Join me for another edition of Connecting the Dots.
Please note that the information provided in this show is not a substitute for consulting with an experienced local attorney and receiving counsel based on the facts and circumstances of a particular transaction. To contact Lizbeth, email her at lisbeth@elizabethlmyska.com or call her office at 508-753-7681. We're online at connectingthedots.lawyer. Executive producers, Lizbeth Myska and Jack Peacock. Producers, John Medberry and Bill Hamilton. A production of Elizabeth L. Myska, JD, LLM, in association with Compliments.